Water is perfectly still. Moonlight slides across the surface of the reservoir like polished steel. The dam rises ahead, dark, massive, absolute, its concrete face unbroken, its silhouette cutting the night in two. Then the engines come. A low, rising thunder skims the hills, not high above, but beneath them, so low the sound seems to scrape the treetops. Birds explode from the shoreline. Cows bolt in the fields. A sentry snaps his head upward, confused, reaching for a sound that should not exist at this altitude. Out of the darkness, a bomber appears. Not thousands of feet up, not untouchable, but rushing straight at the water, barely 60 feet above the surface. The aircraft shadow races alongside it, stretched and distorted across the reservoir. Spray kicks up behind the spinning propellers. The pilot grips the control column, jaw clenched, eyes locked forward. One mistake now, 1 second too late, and the aircraft will vanish into the water in a bloom of fire and debris. Inside the cockpit, two lights burn beneath the fuselage, their beams converging on the black mirror below. When the twin reflections touch, the aircraft is at the right height. Not higher, not lower. Perfect, or dead. Trace of fire snaps upward from the dam's defenses. Orange streaks claw at the darkness, passing beneath the wings, above the canopy. The rear gunner shouts a warning that no one answers. Everyone already knows. There is no evasive action left. Only commitment. The bomb aimer lies flat in the nose, counting seconds under his breath. Wind roars through open panels. The dam grows larger, filling the windscreen, its concrete face rushing toward him like a war at the end of the world. Steady, steady. The pilot holds the aircraft rock solid, flying by instinct, training, and nerves stretched to breaking. At exactly the right moment, the bomb aimer slams the release. The weapon drops. For a fraction of a second, it disappears. Then it hits the water and bounces. Once, twice, skipping like a stone thrown by an invisible giant, racing straight toward the dam as trace of fire rips through the air above it. The bomber roars overhead, clearing the dam by yards, not meters, engines screaming as it claws for altitude. Behind it, the weapon strikes the wall. There is a pause, a heartbeat. Then the night tears itself apart. A white-hot flash punches outward, followed by a concussion that slams into the surrounding hills. Water heaves violently. A section of the dam shudders, but holds. For now, inside the departing aircraft, no one speaks. They bank hard, dropping back toward the valley floor, engine straining, flak bursting behind them. The crew does not look back. They don't need to, because another bomber is already lining up. And another, and another. One by one, they will run the same gauntlet, low, slow, exposed, against a target everyone said could never be breached. Below, the water ripples, settling again into deceptive calm. Above, the sky fills with engines, trace of fire, and men flying straight into history. The harbor was supposed to be untouchable, the dam unbreakable. But tonight, the impossible is being attempted, again and again and again, until either the concrete gives way, or the crews do. Months earlier, England. The room is quiet in the way disbelief sounds. Blueprints lie spread across the table, curved lines, spinning drums, impossible angles. At the center stands a man too intense to notice the doubt around him. His hands move as he speaks, sketching trajectories in the air, describing forces no one has ever tried to harness in combat. Barnes Wallis does not raise his voice. He doesn't need to. The idea does that for him. A bomb that bounces, spins backward, skips across water, slams into a dam wall, sinks, clings, and detonates at depth, where concrete is weakest and water becomes a weapon. Around the table, officers exchange looks. Someone coughs. Another smiles despite himself. Dams are defended. One finally says, torpedo nets, flak towers, floodlights. Wallis nods. He already knows. That's why it must fly low, he replies. Very low. Silence again. Low-level night flying against heavily defended targets is not a tactic, it's a death sentence. Everyone in the room understands that. Training losses alone could cripple a squadron. The proposal is filed, reviewed, questioned, nearly buried, until the numbers come back. If the dams fall, The Ruhr floods. Power stations fail. Factories go dark. Transportation collapses. Not for days, but for months. One breach could do what 1,000 bombers cannot. The calculation changes. A new unit is formed in secrecy. Handpicked crews. Modified aircraft. Endless night flights over English reservoirs that suddenly become as dangerous as enemy territory. They skim water at mast height, engines screaming. Instructors watching with clenched fists as aircraft miss hills by feet. Mistakes are punished instantly. Crashes happen. Funerals follow. No speeches. The men who survive learn to trust strange tools. Spotlights angle beneath their wings to judge height. Stopwatches to measure distance. Nerves honed to a razor edge. At their head is a calm voice with steel beneath it. Guy Gibson does not promise survival. He promises clarity. Orders will be simple. Runs will be precise. Hesitation will kill faster than flak. When the mission finally comes, it is a name that sounds almost gentle. Operation Chastise. The targets are listed. Möhne, Edersee. Names that mean nothing to the crews yet, but soon will. Back in Germany, no one is worried. The dams have stood for decades. Their walls are thick. Their defenses layered. The idea that aircraft could attack them effectively at night is dismissed outright. Harbors are untouchable. Dams are indestructible. And somewhere deep in the English countryside, bombers are being stripped, modified, lightened, transformed into precision instrument for a task no one has ever completed. The men train in silence. They joke less. They fly lower. Because soon, they will cross the coast and head for concrete walls that do not forgive mistakes. And when they do, there will be no second chances. Only the run. The 16th of May 1943. 23:11 hours. Approaches to the Möhne Reservoir. The hills rise suddenly. Dark shapes against darker sky. No warning. No margin. The Lancaster drops lower. Throttles ease back, skimming the contours of the land as if the aircraft is feeling its way forward. Trees rush beneath the fuselage. A farmhouse flashes past a port wing, close enough to touch. Inside the cockpit, no one speaks. The navigator's finger taps once on the chart. Time on target. The pilot nods without looking. This is it. Ahead, the reservoir opens like a wound. Black, flat, deceptively calm. The dam sits at the far end, a pale scar across the valley. Floodlights snap on. The night explodes into white. Beams rake the sky. Hunting. Trace of fire follows, stitching upward from flak towers planted on either side of the dam. The gunners have been waiting for this, if not for this exact threat, then for something like it. The Lancaster does not climb. It sinks lower, 60 feet, 50. The spotlights beneath the wings bone, their cones touching on the water's surface. When the reflections meet, the aircraft is at the killing height. A shell bursts off the starboard side. The aircraft jolts. A warning light flickers, then steadies. The flight engineer's hand hovers, ready to call it. He doesn't. Hold it. The pilot says, voice flat. The dam grows, filling the windscreen. The sense of speed is overwhelming now, the water rushing beneath them, the concrete wall racing closer, the traces snapping past like thrown knives. The bomb aimer counts. Not seconds. Heartbeats. Now. The release clunks. The bomb drops, spinning backward, striking the water with a slap that sends spray arcing into the air. It skips, once, twice, each bounce perfectly spaced, racing toward the wall as the bomber roars overhead, clearing the crest by a handful of yards. The pilot wrenches the aircraft into a turn, engines screaming in protest as they drag the Lancaster away at valley height. Trace of fire tears through the space they occupied seconds earlier. Then, detonation. A violent, muffled punch. Water surges upward, hammering the dam's face. Concrete fractures, but holds. For the moment, no cheers, no relief. They know better. Another Lancaster is already lining up, flying the same suicidal path. Then another. One aircraft takes a direct hit and vanishes in a blossom of fire, fragments scattering across the hillside. There is no time to mourn. Each crew must decide, press on or break away. Abort means survival now and failure forever. Pressing on means gambling everything on physics and courage. One by one, they commit. Bombs bounce. Explosions hammer the wall again and again. Cracks spread like veins. And then, at last, the dam shudders. A section buckles. For a second, it seems to hesitate, as if the concrete itself is deciding whether to yield. Then it breaks. A vast white surge pours through the gap, water roaring into the valley below with unstoppable force. The reservoir collapses inward, emptying itself in minutes. A wall that took years to build is undone in seconds. Inside a departing Lancaster, a crewman looks back and whispers something no one hears. The impossible has happened, but there is no time to celebrate. Fuel is low, aircraft are missing, and there are still other dams to hit. The night is only half over. The 16th of May 1943. After midnight, central Germany. The flood arrives first as a sound. A deep, advancing roar that fills valleys before it fills them with water. It tears trees from their roots, snaps bridges like matchsticks, and slams into villages that have no warning, no sirens, no time. Downstream from the Möhne, power stations vanish beneath churning foam. Rail lines twist and buckle. Factories go dark as turbines choke and fail. The Ruhr, beating heart of German industry, staggers under a blow it never saw coming. In the air, the raid fractures. Formations scatter towards secondary targets, each crew navigating alone through hostile sky. Some turn south toward the Eder. Others push on to the Sorp. Radios crackle with clipped call signs, half-phrases, silence where voices should be. At the Eder Reservoir, the challenge is different, and worse. The dam sits in a steep, winding valley with no straight approach. No clear run-in. No forgiving geometry. The pilots must thread their aircraft through darkness and hills, then yank them level at the last possible second. Floodlights snap on. Flak erupts. A Lancaster dives, then climbs, then dives again, lining up by instinct more than instruments. The bomb bounces, but the dam is earth-filled, not solid concrete. The weapon detonates with a brutal concussion that shakes the valley. It takes more than one run, more than one life. Finally, the Eder gives way. Water spills, then surges, then roars into the valley, racing toward towns that will be drowned before dawn. At the Sorp, the crews face the worst of all worlds. An earth dam, heavy defenses, a requirement for a direct drop along the crest, not a bounce. The Lancaster must fly straight at the wall, level and expose, under sustained fire. They make run after run. One bomb misses. Another detonates too far out. Flak chews at wings and fuselages. The dam shudders but refuses to break completely. Eventually, they do enough. Damage is inflicted. Not catastrophic, but real. Enough to drain manpower, divert resources, force repairs under constant threat of follow-up attacks. By the time the surviving aircraft turn for home, dawn is bleeding into the eastern sky. Fuel gauges flirt with zero. Crews fly on calculation and prayer, skimming terrain to avoid fighters that never come, or come too late. Over the North Sea, the tension finally eases. Engines settle. The sky lightens. England emerges from the haze like a promise kept. At bases across the country, ground crews count aircraft as they land. They stop smiling. Of the 19 Lancasters that took off, 8 are missing. 53 men gone. The survivors climb down from cockpits in silence, faces hollow, eyes fixed somewhere far away. They know what the cost was. They also know what they did. Intelligence assessments come quickly. Aerial photographs confirm breaches. Flood paths mapped. Power losses calculated. The impact is undeniable, even if temporary. But something else has happened. Something less measurable. A line has been crossed. A harbor thought untouchable has been violated by precision and nerve. A wall thought eternal has been broken by engineering and courage. The men of No. 617 Squadron IAF will carry the weight of that night forever, pride braided tightly with grief. And in Germany, as emergency crews scramble and leaders rage, a realization settles in. If this could be done once, it can be done again. Dawn, the 17th of May, 1943. England. The runways glisten with dew as the first Lancasters appear out of the thinning cloud. Engines cough, then settle. Tires touch concrete. Aircraft roll in one by one. Scarred, oil-streaked, improbably intact. Ground crews count silently. They already know the number is wrong. Men climb down from cockpit stiff with cold and shock. Some grin without knowing why. Others sit on the grass and stare at nothing. Names are called. Some answers never come. In briefing rooms, the maps are updated. 2 dams breached. 1 badly damaged. Valleys flooded. Power lost. Factories stalled. Repairs already underway, but not before chaos has rippled outward through the Ruhr. The effect is not permanent, but it is profound, because the message has landed. In Germany, emergency crews work around the clock. Prisoners and forced labor are rushed in to rebuild shattered walls. Anti-aircraft defenses are strengthened everywhere. The sky is watched more closely than ever. Yet certainty is gone. If dams can be broken, what else is vulnerable? Back in Britain, the man who conceived it all watches quietly as the reports arrive. Barnes Wallis knows the arguments already forming, about costs, about civilian deaths, about whether the results justify the loss. He also knows this. The impossible was made practical. The idea once laughed out of rooms forced the enemy to rethink what could be defended, and how. For the men of No. 617 Squadron IAF, the raid becomes both legacy and burden. They will be called again and again for the hardest targets. Precision will be demanded. Losses will follow. They will never be ordinary again. History will remember the spectacle, the bouncing bombs, the shattered dams, the floodwaters tearing through valleys. But those who were there remember something quieter. The moment on the run. The twin spotlights touching on black water. The second where there was no escape left, only faith in training, in mathematics, in the men beside you. They said the harbor was untouchable. They said the walls would hold. On one night in May 1943, flying lower than anyone thought survivable, a handful of crews proved that in war, certainty is often the first casualty. And once it breaks, nothing feels safe again.